Well, welcome back, folks. It's been the better part of a week since we last talked, so I thought it'd be helpful and interesting to share with you what I've been up to in a little Honda SL125 engine. I have received all the parts I was waiting for. The third over piston, that's right here. The piston rings that go with it, and the piston pin, wrist pin, gudgeon pin. Obviously, these are all new components. And I also received the second valve guide that I was waiting for, along with the valves themselves. So let's talk about the cylinder first. I did have this board. I just got it back yesterday. Once I got the parts in a couple of days ago, I ran it right up to my machine shop, and they did it in 2 days. Yeah, I don't know if you can see in there, but the board did, a little dusty maybe, but the board did clean up really good. Again, this is the third over, and it fits just fine. So I'm real happy with the way the cylinder cleaned up and came out. And it did remove all the pitting, rust pitting that was in there. So I think the cylinder is good to go. I will surface this myself on my surface plate before I reassemble the engine. I also had the machine shop install the valve guides, ream them, and cut new valve seats. I'll show you what that looks like here. There's the new valves. You can see right there. Get you a shot of the new valve seats. So they pressed in the valve guides, reamed them to match the valve stems, which is standard procedure. Then cut the new seats, and they said they did pressure test it, and it came out perfectly fine. I don't know if you can see in there or not. See if I can get you a little light in there. I think you can see what that one looks like there. And there. So I'm real happy with the way that turned out. The spark plug hole, they did not have a time cert insert, 12 millimeter. They would have had to order one, and then I would end up paying for that, believe it or not. And they said they could put a helicoil, or I could put a helicoil in there, and I said, no, I really don't want a helicoil. So they did run a chase through the threads, and it actually, they cleaned up pretty good. There's still a little bit of damage at the very bottom here that didn't clean up, but they thought it would be fine. I think they put in the spark plug. Here's the original spark plug that came out of it. I don't know why anyone would put an Autolite in a Honda motor rather than NGK, but nonetheless, that's what it had in it. And they did put this in and torqued it to 12 foot-pounds, and they said it torqued just fine. So they thought the spark plug hole would be okay. At this point, the machining on the cylinder is the cylinder and head are done. Oh, by the way, they also just quickly surfaced this off for me. I think you can see that. And then I'll put that on my surface plate and do a little finer surfacing myself. They really just flattened it is what they did, and I'll clean it up on my surface plate. In terms of costs, here's, I think you can probably see that. Here's what they charge me. These are US dollars, of course. The boring of the cylinder was $62. Grind the valves and cut the seats, $18 each for a total of $36. Install and ream the valve guides is $11 each for $22, and then they just resurfaced the head on their lathe. With tax and everything else and the supplies, it came to $157, which is, I think, a reasonable price. They've always been reasonably priced at that shop. They've been doing my machining work for at least 20 years, and they're a big engine builder. They're known for their engine building, race engine building in the area. They do a lot of racing motors for boats, because I live in the Great Lakes, so high-powered boats are a big deal around here, and they do a lot of engine building. So they're very well known, and they always are accommodating for me. In fact, they like working on these small engines. So that's where I'm at with these components, and as I indicated, they're pretty much done. What we'll do now is I'll shift over to the block, lower part of the engine, and we'll talk about what I've been up to there over the last 3 or 4 days, 5 days, and let me reset up for that. While I was waiting for those parts I just shared with you to come in the mail and to get the machining done, I've been working on disassembling the right-hand side, the clutch side, and the primary drive side of the engine. And sitting in here is the oil pump drive assembly, which I have disassembled. I think you can see the parts there. These are all have been derusted, and I've had them in the polisher for the last about 12 hours, 18 hours or so. So I'm going to polish them all up. They're not done yet. This is the main drive gear for the oil pump. This is the drive gear for pinion for the tachometer. And most of the rest of these parts are just covers, with the exception of this plate and these two small gears that actually are the drive pump, oil pump itself. And it all is cleaned up reasonably well, and again, it's in the polisher right now. This is going to be blackened. I'll blacken that. It originally was black, and I removed the coating when I removed the rust. There was a little surface rust on that, but nothing serious. And on this drive oil pump assembly, there's a little surface rust. So some of these parts are going to be re-blackened before it's over, after they get polished. The pump itself, which again, those components just shared with you sitting here, it came apart quite easily, with one exception, and that is there's a nut down in there where I'm pointing, right there, that so far has defied me getting that out. Now that's a round, it's a round nut, and it's got notches cut in it for a special tool. As I indicated, Honda does make a special tool to remove that nut, and it's a special round socket with legs that fit down into those notches. And quite a few years ago, when I restored the Honda SL125, I had the same situation on the clutch. It was the same nut. And I made my own little tool out of an old socket, like you can see here. So I put the socket on there, and well, what it did, destroyed the tool I made, as you can see. That would not come out. I heated it, I applied oil to it, I soaked it a couple of days like I normally do, heated it as hot as I dared, and well, the little cheap tool didn't hold up. So what I ended up doing is ordering a Honda tool. That's what this is. This is a commercially made tool. It's actually made for this. It's got two different sizes. This is a 16 millimeter with a 1/2 inch drive. So what I'm going to do now, and I will show this, we'll do this together. I'm going to show trying to get that nut out. Now, if something fails, because I want to preserve this piece right here, this round alloy piece, I want to try to preserve it. If this fails for some reason and I can't get that nut out, I will probably try to split that nut. Obviously, you can't get a regular conventional nut driver in there, but I'll probably cut that nut with a Dremel in a fine or small milling bit and cut that nut out with a cold chisel. If that fails, then what I will end up doing is sacrificing this piece and cutting it off, far enough that I can get at the nut easier. But first thing we're going to do is try this. I am going to apply more penetrant and heat. I'll heat this up and have to reset up. I think I'm going to put this unit on the floor so I can put my weight on it, like this from the top, and see if we can't get that nut out. And again, like I said, if I can't, then I'm going to end up getting a little more drastic with it. So I'll move everything to the floor, and I'll pick this up on the other side there. So I got lubricant in there, and I've heated it a couple of times, let it cool down. It's hot right now, that's why I'm wearing gloves. I have the tool and a 1/2 inch drive impact extension. I've got my air-powered impact driver. This is a beast, this machine. If this doesn't take it off, I'd be surprised. The only concern I have is right now the engine's locked up, and this driver has so much torque it might pop the engine loose and want to spin it. So we'll see what happens here. And it came loose, just that quick. Get a pair of pliers here. And fish this out. There it is right there. I have ordered a new nut, and the reason I did that is I wasn't sure what condition this one was going to be in. So I do have a new one coming. Those are pretty readily available. And now we're going to have to see if we can't get this. I can't get this housing off of here up on the bench. Let's see if we can go ahead and get this little housing off of here. Again, it's pretty hot. I just heated it with my propane torch, the aluminum here around the base, and I've tapped it a few times like this. I worked my way around. It does seem to be a little loose. And originally I was thinking this was going to come off, be a challenge to get off, but I suspect we're going to be able to just work it off. It is a little loose. In fact, there it is right there. See the penetrant? It's just keyed onto this spline into the crankshaft. So that actually came off easier than what I thought it would. So again, my intention is to try to preserve and reuse this part, so I will take it over and put it in my media blast cabinet with glass beads, bead blast it, clean it up, degrease it, and then I'll throw this in my tumbler as well, polisher, see if we can't clean that up. And again, there's the nut that I took out. Again, that's going to be replaced. So now this allows me to get at the clutch basket right here. The clutch plates were all frozen together, but I do have them loose, and I got some of the hardware out, so that's going to be the next step, is to see if I can't get this clutch basket. Well, it's actually the early morning of the next day, and I did get the cases apart late in the day yesterday, and then I stopped. And I thought I'd do this little review of what I found early the next morning. Here's the crankshaft as I pulled it out, and not unexpected, the bearings. This one's got a little movement to it. This is on the left side of the engine. This is the right side. This bearing right here, this large bearing, is totally froze up. The drive pinion right here is in very poor condition. Could it be saved? Maybe, but I'm not going to bother trying to save that. And certainly the connecting rod itself, though it has a little movement to it, is in pretty poor condition also. Now, of course, the big question is, could this crankshaft be saved? Again, the answer is maybe. You can certainly put on new bearings on each side. You can press on a new drive gear pinion. The big question for me would be the condition of the journal down in here once you press this crank apart. Whether the crank journal, which fits through the connecting rod like this, is pitted or is damaged from rust. That would be the risk. And I'm not going to take a chance on this crank. I'm going to replace it with a good used item, which I already have, so let me show you that. Here's a replacement crank that I picked up. It's in very good condition. I think I paid, because I've been buying so many parts I'm losing track, I think I paid around $20-25 US for this. But it's nice and clean. There's nothing wrong with either one of the bearings. I'm not even going to replace the bearings. I'm going to clean it good. And it's already in pretty good condition. That bearing's in good shape. You can see the gear for the cam chain looks like it's good condition. I will have to get a new drive pinion here. That would be this gear right here. And press that on. I did check the tolerance between the journal here, the connecting rod, and the end of the crank or side of the crank, and it's within specs. So I think that'll make a good replacement once it's cleaned up for the crankshaft. So I've got the crankshaft, the plan for the crankshaft. All I need to do is get this drive gear and press that on, which would be fairly academic. So let's move on to the transmission and cases. Here's the gear change mechanism. It has to be removed before you can split the cases. Shift shaft, it's in okay condition. The splines, I've seen better, I've seen worse. And the rest of the components aren't actually in bad shape. They could certainly probably be salvaged and cleaned up and reused, with maybe the exception of the shift shaft because of the splines. But I'll probably end up replacing these components with a good used transmission shift drum set. They're quite commonly available on eBay, quite inexpensively and in better condition than what this one is. So I'll probably replace all of those parts with good used. Here's the engine cases, right and left. I did not have too much trouble getting this apart. I did heat the seam all the way around on the outside, got it good and hot, and then just used my soft mallet and tapped it and worked them apart. Probably took 20 minutes to a half an hour to get this to split, and I don't believe it's ever been apart before. Condition as expected. You know, this bearing right here is totally seized, so obviously that will come out. This is, see, there's still a little debris in there. This is the kickstart mechanism. Again, whether I'll reuse that or not, probably doubtful. I think I'm going to replace this shaft anyway. And actually, you can buy those new, still fairly reasonable. I think it's around $60 US for that shift shaft. Don't hold me to that, but I think it's in that ballpark. And obviously, this will have to all be cleaned up. The left case, this is where the transmission is, right here. The transmission is locked up. This bearing here is locked up. Can't get that to turn at all, not surprising. So I'll end up pulling all this out. The gear shift drum right here, that doesn't turn, probably because these shafts don't turn. So my next step is to obviously finish pulling this apart, get this transmission out of here, get some of these bearing races popped out, and then start cleaning the two halves of the engine cases. I'll use sodium bicarbonate for that, and clean them up really well and soak them, and then decide my next step on the transmission, shift drum, and kickstart mechanism. One other little note, I did note right here, let me see if I can find it, right there where I'm pointing to, there's a tooth missing. There might be other teeth missing too, but that one I spotted, and I did find it. It was down in the bottom of the case, right there. I think that's what's left of it. This looks like part of a circlip or an E-clip that just I found in the bottom. I don't know where it belongs yet. That's a little bit of a mystery. And this washer is a little bit of a mystery. I don't know where that belongs either, because I was very careful and deliberate when I pulled this apart so parts don't just drop out. So that I know what it is. These two pieces I don't, but I'll have to sort that out as part of the process here as we move along. So major milestone, got the engine split. The next step is sort all these pieces out. Let's talk about the clutch basket real quick. There's the clutch basket. Again, I didn't have too much trouble getting that out. It's shot. The drive gear here all the way around, as you can see, is rusty. And once I clean it up, it's all pitted, I'm sure. Clutch plates can be replaced, certainly, but I'm going to replace this whole unit with a good used item, which I also have. So let me show that to you. Here's a new clutch package. This is complete. As you can see, even has the plates yet. I don't know. I haven't measured the plates or taken a look at the condition of those, but I might end up replacing them. I don't know. I'll check them first and see. But clearly, that's in much better condition than what this one is. You can see the difference, especially in the drive gear. And so this one I am not going to reuse. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it right now, or the crank for that matter, but this will be the replacement clutch that will be installed on the engine. I think that's going to be it for this update video today, folks. As we progress with the engine, I'll be sure to keep you updated. But we're going to call it for now. Any issues, questions, thoughts, drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.